I'm pretty ready at this point with the Atlanta Falcons to just say, I think we know who they are. They are a team that needs to be able to run the ball for them to be able to function offensively. And this isn't just an Atlanta thing. This is a thing for the entire NFL. And these first few weeks have showcased that teams who cannot run the ball, or for at least a game that can't run the ball, they're not going to succeed this year. You look at the Dallas Cowboys, they haven't been able to run the ball all year. They got bailed out by playing a bad Cleveland team in the first week, but since then they have not been able to do anything offensively. You look at Houston today, a team through the first 2 weeks was able to rely on Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce in that running game. And then today, when they didn't have either of their top two running backs, they didn't have anybody they felt like they could rely on offensively to run the ball. And they paid for it with a 34-7 loss. Now, losing 22-17 to the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, a team that you ended up leading at halftime, I guess you can say you have some things to hang your hat on from this game. But I would say that nobody offensively played a great game for you. I would think that the most reliable player offensively that Atlanta had tonight was Darnell Mooney. I mean, Bijan Robinson had 18 touches for 52 yards. Drake London was getting a lot of yards, a lot of catches towards the end of the game, but I can't say that he was really producing a lot. And this was another game from Kyle Pitts where he has 2 receptions. One of them goes for 50 yards. That makes his box score look a little bit better. But, I mean, he had 2 catches. He had 5 targets. This was a team tonight that it felt like they weren't doing anything offensively almost the whole game. And Kansas City had a pretty good plan to go against them tonight defensively. They stopped that wide zone, outside zone, that Atlanta has been using a lot to their advantage so far this year. And it seemed like once Kansas City proved they could stop that, Atlanta just was bogged down. And they weren't really able to produce, not just points, they weren't really able to produce long, sustained drives that they needed to be able to stay in this game. Those first 2 touchdowns that they had, Atlanta looked really good. Atlanta looked great. But then you look at what they did, especially in the second half. I mean, they just were not doing a lot. And they got bailed out by a lot of penalties, I would think, on Kansas City. They had a lot of first downs from penalties. And they didn't really do much with it. I don't know going forward what Atlanta does to address running the ball because, if their right tackle, Caleb McGarry, is out for an extended period of time and their center, Drew Dahlman, is out for an extended period of time, that's a pretty major blow to your offensive line and to your running game. But we'll see what they do. It just seems this team just shouldn't be scoring 20 points a game. They shouldn't. They need to be in the 25 to 30 range in terms of producing points, or else they're just going to have these types of games where, yes, they're within 1 score, but you don't want to just say the entire year that we were within 1 touchdown every single game that we lost. You don't want to be what the Chargers have been for the last 6 years. You don't want to be that. You want to be the team saying that we won by 5 or 6 points every game. And that's an obvious statement to say, but the thing is, it's just the truth. For Kansas City, this is a pretty impressive performance that they had. Losing at halftime, like I mentioned, they came out in the third quarter with 9 points. They came out and played pretty much their brand, I guess. They played very smart in the second half, even though that they had 3 and outs. Those 3 and outs lasted a solid amount of time, enough time to make Atlanta, scared about the clock to end the game. Um, I don't really know what I leave this game knowing about either team, because Kansas City, it was basically just the Rashee Rice show. And yeah, Carson Steele, 17 carries for 72 yards. But this was the Rashee Rice game. Travis Kelce looked pretty bad. Xavier Worthy didn't do much. Juju Smith-Schuster made an appearance. But this was a game defensively that they were relying on, and like I said, Rashee Rice. And they relied on the fact that Atlanta is just, I think I kind of figured it out, they're just not aggressive. They're not aggressive, and they're not really, they don't seem like they're going after a touchdown every single drive. They just look like they're trying to put up points. They don't look like they're trying to put up a touchdown. And this is, I don't want to say that they're scared to be aggressive, but I think this is kind of the thing that you have when you have a quarterback coming off of a torn Achilles. You don't have you're not pushing it like you should. You should be pushing it against the Kansas City Chiefs. You should not be playing conservative at all. And it's hard to say that they were conservative, but it's also hard to say that they were aggressive. They were somewhere in between. And you can't be that against Kansas City. You really can't be that against any team nowadays.